Ricky Starks is part of the new AEW tag team that have now beaten FTR and they got the championships. We're going to talk about how this came about and what the future holds for Ricky Starks and more in this episode of WrstlXtra. Stay tuned.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. Always join Trios team, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will. Yeah. And of course, the professor that is the wise man, Gerard Bonner. I felt like while I was doing that, I was trying to remember exactly how it goes because I haven't done this for like about 3 weeks. But we are back. We are here. I'm here. I'm back. Tony Khan has allowed me to have a decent connection again. Well, let's get into it. We're talking good things about Tony Khan's company today. Ricky Starks and Big Bill are now the new AEW Tag Team Champions. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't see this coming whatsoever. Mex, talk to me about how it went down and how you felt when Ricky Starks picked up that 1, 2, 3.
So it was on Collision. They announced obviously for this AEW Tag Team Championship match, and I think what the truth of the matter is that FTR are pretty beat. They've been working, been working with injuries, and I think they probably thought they could last a bit longer than they have. So I hope, either Cash or Dax. Cash was the one that got kind of kicked out of the match pretty quickly. So maybe he's the one working with the more severe injury. I hope that it's not too bad. But I guess they just made the decision that they can't really go on with how they're feeling. And Ricky Starks and Big Bill were up to take the reins. But I didn't see it coming either, but I loved the way it happened. The way there was a lot of urgency. Like, obviously, again, these guys are injured, so they don't want a long drawn out match or anything like that. But it's like Big Bill and Ricky Starks came down to the ring with a plan. Like, let's completely take one of these guys out, which they did in Cash, and then it's just left for Dax to kind of fight from underneath and see what offense he could get on them to capitalize. And nothing. It didn't work, and these guys surprisingly won the titles. Is this where I wanted to see Ricky Starks? Probably not. Small wins, I guess. You can't complain about everything, but we'll see. He's been making chicken salad out of chicken poo, so I'm sure he will make something of this. But yeah, came out of nowhere, like you said.
Gerard, we've said it a few times on the show with the way Ricky Starks has been used in AEW over time, and even very recently, even though it's more stuff, there was always been this thing where it's never a real championship. He finally has now a legitimate AEW championship around his waist. My first question is, how do you feel about that? And my second question is, why Big Bill and Ricky Starks and not Bullet Club Gold, for example, or the Gun Club even?
Well, let me first start by congratulating Ricky Starks for becoming a real world champion right there on Collision. Imagine that, right? And so I was shocked. I think like the rest of the world. I mean, I literally gasped when the 3 count happened because I'm like, I can't believe that FTR, who, I mean, just think about the people that they've beaten, the 60-minute classic that you referred to with Bullet Club Gold. And then just, a week or so ago at Wrestle Dream, their incredible match that they had there, you just think to yourself, wow, I think this is a moment of right place, right time for Ricky Starks and Big Bill. And in terms of why them and not Bullet Club Gold, to me, you talked about, Mex talked about urgency earlier. There's a different kind of urgency happening right now in AEW, particularly on Collision. And the urgency is we must at all costs, keep Ricky Starks.
Right.
After all, we just watched Jade Cargill, which we'll talk about later, being paraded like a true superstar, okay? And we know, the bidding war of 2024 isn't just about MJF. It's about Ricky Starks and those like him. So I think they figured, you know what? 2024 is 3 months away, and we better give him all that we can give him. So let's give him an actual title that means something. Isn't it crazy to me that before we go into 2024, for all of the titles and things that Ricky Starks has been eligible for or has held, he's finally actually getting a recognized championship from AEW for the first time, 3 months potentially before the end of his contract? Coincidental? Maybe, maybe not. I think that is the bigger level of urgency, even bigger than the injuries. They've got to do something to satisfy Ricky Starks. And Big Bill just happens to be right place, right time, right affiliation. I'm happy that he's getting a championship, quite frankly. To me, the story here is, how do we satisfy Ricky Starks?
Interesting. With all of that said, how do we see this one panning out in terms of this reign now? Because we had, we've had Swerve and Keith Lee. Didn't last long. We had the Acclaimed. You can argue it lasted long enough, but maybe not the greatest reign that there was. Does this one now, with a team that have not, they've never been a tag team, they've only just been put together about a month ago. As I said, you've got the likes of the Gun Club, the Young Bucks, Aussie Open, so many other tag teams, the Lucha Bros, all the rest of them who could have easily held these titles. Do we see this as a transitional thing, or is this Ricky Starks holding his championship for a while? I'm leaving that out to the floor.
I don't know, like, because like Gerard said, we all know they're twerking for Ricky Starks right now. There's no other way to put it.
They're twerking for Ricky Starks.
They're making sure they can keep that man by any means necessary. So it's
wow.
I just
come here, pretty Ricky.
It's crazy. Like it came out of nowhere. And big up Big Bill as well, because obviously he's went through his demons, his troubles, his changes, and this is his first title in wrestling. It's enormous for him as well. But I just don't know where they're gonna go with this. I've never really been a fan of like the odd couple tag team winning the tag team titles. Like just being the division, fair enough. And obviously we saw that on WWE over the weekend as well. Like it's just like you've got main event guys or guys you want to push, and there's like nothing really to do with them. Let's give them the tag team belt sort of thing.
Right.
And that's a bit of what this feels like. But they've recently come out, or Ricky's recently come out of a long program with Danielson. So maybe somewhere down the line we see, BCC at least versus Ricky Starks and Big Bill. But I really just don't know where they're going with it. I'm not poo-pooing it, or wait and see where it goes, but it's not very clear sort of thing.
Yeah. That's my thoughts exactly. So as much as he's finally has a legitimate championship, it's still like, why this one? You know what I mean? Where did this come from? Why was it this one and not the TNT or something else? And again, the whole odd couple thing as well. And then you've got all these other tag teams that are so good as well. You could have held these championships because of FTR's injuries and stuff like that. So it's still a bit, up in the air as to how legitimate this really will feel for Ricky Starks and Big Bill. But at the same time, at least Ricky Starks and Bill can now definitely say they are the faces of Collision. I think that can now not be argued. That tag team championship has been on that show from the day Collision started, of course, with FTR and Punk being so close and all the rest of it. So it gives Ricky something more, even more substance now, which is great. But at the same time, it's still kind of like this. How much is it, and how long is this going to actually last? And what does it bring for him? It's very, very interesting. A friend of Ricky Starks who has found himself some more friends once again, is the man that is Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, Powerhouse Hobbs, it seems, has joined forces and joined the family that is Don Callis family after attacking both Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. Mex, actually, no, you know what? I'm going to go to Gerard for this. How do you feel? We've said it before. I'm sure we'll say it again. But we've got Powerhouse Hobbs, again, a part of another faction, team, group, whatever you want to call it, family. Was this the right move? Yes or no?
I'll say this. If he's going to be a part of something, I'd like for him to be a part of something that seemingly is headed toward the top of the card. And that's certainly the case here with the Don Callis family. I mean, if you're attacking Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, you are in the main event picture. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about it. By mere fact of who they are, right? They're automatically main event people. So given the success so far of the Don Callis family, Takeshita, Will Ospreay, these guys have been doing nothing but winning. Sammy Guevara, like they've all been just winning. So Hobbs being a part of this, I think, is a win for Hobbs. No offense to the other spaces that he was a part of, whether it was Team Taz or, QTV, but both of those spaces during those times were firmly set in the middle of the card, very firmly. They didn't have really much of a chance to get to the top tier. But if you're looking at All In, All Out, Wrestle Dream, all of these spaces, the Don Callis family was very, very significantly featured in major matches. So if you're putting him with them, this is actually very good, I think, for Will Hobbs. It kind of gets us, because he was in a murky place, around All Out, this battle that he had, which we were excited about with Miro, which we thought would be the beginning of a program. It just ended up being one and done. So where in the world would Hobbs end up? If he's going to land somewhere, there's nowhere better right now for him to land than this. I'm not sure that he is viewed in such a way where he could stand on his own 2 feet and be taken in a main event capacity. But with Don Callis, that's automatically going to get you a bunch of boos. You're automatically going to get a whole lot of attention. Then you're surrounded by Takeshita, you're surrounded by Sammy Guevara, and then at times Will Ospreay. Sheesh, that's amazing. So I'm happy for Hobbs. I think this is going to be a real opportunity for him to finally sink or swim.
Max, do you think he now just becomes the heavy of the group, or do you think this will actually elevate him in a singles capacity?
Big up Ches Nasty. He says, I'm optimistic with Hobbs in this group. I feel he'll get more shine, which is definitely what Gerard is saying. Yeah. My thing with this was that, again, I thought we're getting to a place where Hobbs is, getting there on his own. And we've went and put him back in a faction. And more than likely, his role would probably be a heavy, just by looking at, by nature of dynamic of people that are in the group. Takeshita seems to be a project. Ospreay is going to be, I guess, the more established guy. Sammy Guevara is like the little scrappy dude, I guess. So Hobbs will fill that role of the heavy. Again, I thought, although, yeah, he'd done a thing with Miro, didn't really bang, and the TNT stuff, and it didn't really bang, they realized there is at least something there. They've put in him, I guess, with one of the best in the game in Don Callis. It's a protection technique. It's a coaching mechanism, a mentoring mechanism. And there's a lot for him to gain from there. However, on this show, Wardlow reappeared.
True. And
when Wardlow reappeared, this was like a couple segments before the Will Hobbs joint, with the Don Callis family. I thought Wardlow, when the Will Hobbs thing had happened, I thought Wardlow would have actually been the perfect candidate for this. Leave Hobbs to do what he's doing, give him that time on Collision, and put Wardlow here, because Wardlow is fighting for his absolute life right now.
He is.
respectfully. And he might be another one that's looking at the calendar and thinking, boy, when the time comes, I'll just walk out and go to the other place. Like, Dave, you know, I don't want to say like Dave messed him up. I guess everyone's culpable. You know, maybe he didn't do as best as he could when given opportunities as well. But I just feel like he would have been someone to sit so nicely within this. Like, even respectfully, I look at the Don Callis family right now, their roster of members, it looks very misfit-ish. Aesthetically, they don't look like these guys would even have a drink down the bar together.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Wardlow maybe would have fit a bit better. But like we're saying, without doubt, the positioning of what the Don Callis are doing and how often we're going to see them on TV and everything they're involved in, it's a great spot for Will Hobbs. You can't complain about that.
It's interesting you mentioned how, you know, he probably should have stayed on Collision. Now, obviously, since the whole thing with CM Punk leaving, we've seen this very, very strong, I guess, more of a merger of talent across all three shows and whatnot. Do we think that this is now kind of causing a problem? Because the only person that I see on that show regularly is Ricky Starks on Collision. Whereas every other show, it's just whoever. Do you think this is going to now cause even, you know, a problem again for the likes of a Will Hobbs, who kind of doesn't fit anywhere? So if he was focused on one show as he was, it kind of helped him. Now he'll just be wherever he is, and they don't know what to do with him again.
Yeah, I think a bit of focus for those kind of talents could help. I don't think it's necessarily a hindrance, but then it looks like clearly since Punk has left, they're kind of the soft brand split, as they were calling it, is no longer, you know, immediately he walked out the door. It's like the box turned up on Collision. It's like, oh, yeah, we're allowed here now. Sort of
right.
We've seen Omega there. We've seen Hangman there. We've seen Moxley there, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think now they're definitely kind of freeing up the borders, as it was, and anyone can go anywhere, sort of thing. And but you make a good point. I do think for people in that kind of ilk of Will Hobbs and people still trying to kind of find themselves just somewhere sturdy. It's almost like how we became accustomed to seeing Jade Cargill on Rampage.
Right.
Like, we just knew she was going to turn up on Rampage. If you wanted to catch her, that's where to catch her and see what she's up to. That kind of stability, at least for a short term, could be good, sort of thing. It worked wonders for Jay White and Bullet Club Gold. Now you see them kind of going everywhere and you're paying attention to everywhere they go. So yeah, that probably could have been a good idea. They followed through on.
Gerard, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think they're in a catch-22 right now, because not only was CM Punk the guy who would kind of help, you know, foster this brand split, I think you could argue they were looking for him from a ratings perspective as well, to kind of be the person that draws attention to that. With that gone, they kind of need the other elements of star power to really help boost that show up, because it's already, you know, tough on Saturday nights. Then you've got college football, you've got all of the, you know, baseball in the playoffs, you got all of these other countering moves, including WWE PLEs. So they need as much star power as they can get. So it's a catch-22. I think, to the point that you guys are both making, the challenge that they have is, okay, we've got another show, another opportunity to build new stars, which is what Collision was starting to do. It could very well get hampered with stars that are showing up on Dynamite also showing up there as well, because now we're taking double the time for the same people, which defeats the purpose, you know?
And I've already seen, you know, some kind of damage for some people who've, you know, ended up on the wrong side of it all. Like my guy, Scorpio Sky has ended up on
collateral damage.
You know what I mean? He's ended up on Ring of Honor. So I'm like,
let it go. Let it go. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to. I don't even know. Like they advertised him, they gave him a match. He was then off TV again for about 3 weeks. They bring him back in a vignette. He was then off TV again for 2 weeks. Then he's had another match. Do you want to use this guy or not? Like it's like where does he fit in the landscape? If anything, like I don't know. It's not. I'm sure he has some type of backstage role that's probably keeping him busy. Because how like they're not doing enough for him. This man is the first ever AEW tag team champion, and this is how it's like they're treating him, so to speak. But yeah, it's not great. He has to look for better if he still wants to kind of continue in ring, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's in a very difficult position. It hasn't worked out for him. It's clear as day. I can't think of any way for it to be changed. Maybe Ring of Honor is got a match against Fred Rosser. The debuting Fred Rosser as well, by the way. So
that's that's so interesting.
So
interesting. Wow.
Very interesting. So yeah, that's that. But still, speaking of Ring of Honor, let's touch on this one really, really quickly. Actually, we see Keith Lee and Shane Taylor about to go up against each other. Gerald, what do we think about this one? Are we wasting time here? Are we expecting a great rivalry, or will they just eventually kind of come together and Keith Lee will see sense in my eyes and just join the Shane Taylor promotions?
That's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought of that. I do think this is a necessary match, and I think it's necessary for both guys. If for no other reason, then you build off of the history that's already there, which I will give it to all of the commentators who continue to reiterate the history that's going on between those two guys. So I think that's a great job there. Why I think these matches are important is it reminds me of the Keith Lee Dijak matches that were happening in NXT. You know, there's something special about getting two big guys who can move like little guys. And I think that'll always be a sight to see wherever it lands. If it lands in Ring of Honor or AEW, that programming is going to flourish because of this matchup. You know, I just think about what the Keith Lee Dijak matches did in NXT. Like, it just brought a whole new energy to that product. I think for a product like Ring of Honor right now, which is honestly looking for a spark, you know, Athena, I think, had been that spark. And now some of the things that Athena's doing aren't really highlighting the tough nature of who she is and how she's built herself as Ring of Honor Women's Champion. So I think a moment like Keith Lee and Shane Taylor has potential to really be special if they just let these guys cook. Let them cook. Let them run. I mean, and if you're putting it on Ring of Honor, you don't have a ton of time constraints. So let them go. Let them crush it. Let it be one of those things where we have to go, we got to watch Honor Club to see what they're going to do next. If they do this right, it reinvigorates the entire thing.
For sure. Speaking of the shows, people going here, there, and everywhere, people booking madness for us to watch. We have this crazy stuff that's happening tonight, actually. Oh, my word. It's a certain TK's birthday. And on this day, he has decided that it's Title Tuesday, and Dynamite will be on TV tonight as opposed to the usual Wednesday night. But of course, in true pro wrestling fashion, Triple H and the rest of WWE have seen this and thought, let's be the party poopers of TK's birthday, and let's get John Cena, Asuka, Cody Rhodes, and let's even have a dong at the end of the promo to get people excited. Mex, what in the world is going on tonight with NXT and Dynamite, please? What is happening?
This is attention seeking at its finest.
For real.
Like, it's business. At the end of the day, people are. I saw obviously after NXT last week when a lot of the promos was done that, you know, Carmelo Hayes, I'm gonna have John Cena in my corner and all of that kind of stuff, and Cody Rhodes is coming to make some type of announcement on NXT. Like, it's business. They're seeing that a rival is coming on their same night. They don't want their numbers to tank. They're doing whatever they have to do to make sure the show stays alive and people still tune in. And they have access to these talents. People call it cheating, or you're bringing these people down. What do you mean? They own these people, like in terms of, you know, as a product of superstar, so they can use them wherever they like, sort of thing. Like, and it's the same thing. Like Dynamite are going on Tuesday and they want to stack the show and they want to crush NXT, and they're having the titles. They're giving us Jay White versus Hangman on TV. Like, that is a pay-per-view match. And forget about the other titles that are on the line. That is a pay-per-view match. So like, they're all doing it. No one's right, no one's wrong. This is business. You're marketing your show. You want people to tune in. The smart ones of us will find a way to watch both, whether one after the other or whatever the case may be. If you're daring enough, you have two screens and watch them simultaneously. This is not the end of the world where people are moaning like, oh, this company's doing this and this company's doing that. Like, I will be watching both and I'll be talking about both tomorrow. How about that?
Gerard, where do your loyalties lie? I mean, sorry, which one are you going to be watching?
Well, I'll just say this. I'm surprised nobody has mentioned this yet. This is TK versus TKO, and we'll see who actually walks away with a big win. Here's the problem with this. Obviously, Dynamite ends up on this night because the baseball playoffs are happening on Wednesday night. This is kind of the challenge of all things AEW sharing these Turner networks. They keep running against things like baseball, basketball, hockey, and so it causes them to have to shift some of their programming. I can guarantee you, if this shift was from a Wednesday night to a Thursday night, we would not be having this conversation. But because it's on Tuesday nights, which Tuesday nights have become NXT's nights, NXT says, like Dikembe Mutombo, not in my house. You will not do this, okay? And so here's what's so interesting to me about this. This is what people are missing. People forgot about how last week NXT pulled its biggest numbers in 3 years. And that was on the heels of No Mercy. And they pulled in more numbers than Dynamite did last week off the heels of Wrestle Dream. So to me, two brands coming off of two pay-per-views should produce some great numbers. If NXT is getting massive numbers like this without Cena, without Cody, without Paul Heyman, without Asuka, what do you think they're going to do tonight? And so I think it's a great night for wrestling fans. That's what I think. And I think that if you are TK over at Dynamite, hey, listen, celebrate your birthday, put on an amazing card, because I'll tell you, I'm very interested in Swerve and Bryan Danielson. That is very interesting to me. You know what I mean?
Pay-per-view match on TV.
Pay-per-view matches. I think the intrigue, though, is how in the world does a John Cena fit on NXT TV, right? Asuka against the Prodigy, right? Like, what is Cody gonna do? How in the world are we fitting a gong in here, right? So I think the mystery lies on the NXT side of things. You know, with AEW, you're going to get a great card. There's no doubt about it. But how this all fits together in NXT is one of those things that people are like, I got to watch this. So obviously we'll know tomorrow what people have decided. I mean, obviously we'll watch one live. We'll watch the other one, you know, on delay or whatever, but it's a great night for wrestling fans. And I just hope that both companies pull off what they intend to. And I mean, competition's good. You know, for those who lived through the Attitude Era, this is what we dealt with every Monday night. You know, literally from WCW deciding we're going to go on 3 minutes early to, you know, WWE saying we'll go 6 minutes late. WCW would try to tell like, we have not. If you are upset about this, you wouldn't have lasted in the Attitude Era, okay? You would not have lasted. I mean, the dirt. You want to talk about dirty tactics? Dirty tactics is when your show is taped and your opposing show says, "I'm going to tell the results, so you never even have to watch." That's dirty tactics. You know what I mean? Dirty tactics is saying, "Hey, Mick Foley's going to win their world title tonight." You know, that's dirty tactics. This right here is stacking the deck so that you do your best on that night. Nobody's giving results away. We're gonna have fun tonight. We're gonna have a lot.
For real. Speaking of fun and the possibilities when it comes to NXT, we had at Fastlane just before it started during the kickoff show. We saw one Jade Cargill come out of the vehicle in the car park and meet with Triple H.
Jesus is alive.
He lives today. You hear me?
That man is alive and kicking.
I believe our friends at Coming to America said there's a God somewhere. He sits high. He looks low. Good Lord.
The first appearance on TV, on WWE TV for Jade Cargill, just comes out, shakes hands with Triple H. The paparazzi are going crazy. The camera lights are going. She's just walking in that future silver suit that Jade all over. Since then, of course, we have been salivating at the mouth, waiting for her to make an entrance. It didn't happen at Fastlane. It didn't, and I'm very surprised, it didn't happen on Raw during or after Becky Lynch's NXT Women's Championship match. Do we think it's going to happen tonight on NXT?
I would hope not, to be honest, because there's just a lot going on as we just divulged. So I would hope not. I think one thing we can take is from that press conference. They're very much looking forward to her. Triple H put her over so that she's doing all the work it takes to become a star, and we want to make sure she's ready for what she's about to take on. And it was almost said like, we're gonna give her a lot. We're gonna give her a big position, so she has to be ready, and she's taken on the challenge. So maybe, as fans speculated beforehand, this is a thing of, leave her in the performance center, let her cook away. We'll just keep mentioning her. We'll introduce her to the fans on screen, on the product in Fastlane, like they did. But let her keep doing whatever it takes to kind of get her up to scratch or get her up to where they need her before they literally unleash her on TV. But yeah, I've been saying this, the presentation, and I think it's a Jade thing more than what they're gonna do going forward, because obviously she's the first signing of this TKO era. I was thinking, is this just more, because for me, I see this as a sports presentation. Big free agent signing comes in. We saw her turn up at the performance center, which is like a medical, and they're taking her around, they're showing her the place. She's doing the press conferences. She's now come to the pay-per-view show. Like, it's very sports orientated, the way they're dealing with this. Again, I don't know whether this is going to be a TKO thing going forward or just a Jade thing, but I think it's great just how they've done all of this. Yeah, I thought tonight would have possibly been the night after Becky defends that NXT title. This is where I predicted she'll show up, but I guess yeah, it didn't happen on Raw. So we'll see. Maybe they wait till later on in the year. Obviously, they've got the Saudi show Crown Jewel next month, as well as Survivor Series. Of course, there's the Rumble in January. I'll kind of be surprised if they wait as far down as the Rumble, but it seems like they're ready to kind of wait and take their time with Jade. So we'll see how they go about it.
Gerard, do you think they missed a trick with not having Jade appear yesterday on Raw? Because it kind of would have killed two birds with one stone. It's an appearance on the main roster, but at the same time, it's not putting a too high position, on the card or within the women's division. But still, championship is there, and of course, the legend that is Becky Lynch in and amongst it. Did they miss a trick there, or are they kind of just waiting to make that type of introduction at a later date?
I think they got this just right. And here's why I say this. Jade Cargill is a special attraction. Okay. She is not somebody that you want to oversaturate the television screen with just yet. It's her introduction. And so, to me, this is kind of the Missy Elliott treatment in the 90s, right? Where we waited for Missy to get a solo project. She just showed up occasionally with a hee-hee-hee-how, right? Like that was Missy And that's how you knew it was Missy. She was on somebody's joint and all of a sudden, how it was like, oh, Missy's here, right? That's what they're doing with Jade. They're just sprinkling her here, sprinkling her there. We don't need it. No. Let her show up. Because think about this. She showed up at the pre-show and we lost the pre-show. That's how you know you are nice like that. All she did, she got out of the car. She looked like $1 billion. You know, Triple H comes out to meet her like, oh my Lord, we're about to make money. And they go off into the sunset. We don't need to have, here's why. We have to be fair. And remember, number one, Jade has been in ring for only 2 years.
Yep.
And with that, we have to acknowledge that there is nobody in AEW's women's division that she faced that is the caliber of what we're seeing in the women's division in WWE. Like, we just have to be honest about that. So to put her in a position, you know, where she's ready to take on Becky Lynch, no. Don't do that to her. I mean, like, you'd ruin your whole investment that way. This would be like the Shockmaster, right? We don't want to do that. So you let her cook. And what's different than what AEW had is, you know, you've got the Performance Center where she can get in as many reps as she needs. She can get whatever she needs in a quiet enough space to where when she comes out, people will forget, oh, wow, she spent 2 months in the Performance Center. They'll just know when she comes out, she'll look like $1 million. She'll move like $1 million. And wow, because with all the hype that they've given her, if she doesn't deliver in the ring, it'll be a massive bust. So they're taking their time. And so whenever we do see her, I mean, this is going to be a very anticipated debut. So should it happen at Survivor Series? Should it happen at Crown Jewel? I'm almost of the mindset that, again, we just pop her on TV here and there, maybe start doing some vignettes to introduce her, and maybe the Royal Rumble is the right place to unleash her. Again, let her finish Final Four. She has to have a strong, here's the deal. She has to have a strong showing in the Rumble. Like, there's no, she needs to eliminate 10 women, you know, stand Final Four so people know, okay, yeah, all of this, okay, it's worth it. And remember, Rumble's only 3 months away. And I say only, that doesn't mean that she doesn't end up on TV. You know, we're not going to forget about her, but you make that in-ring debut something to anticipate. I think that's what they have to do. Let us see her on TV. Let her show up here. Let her show up there. Maybe even have a time where she stands at the top of the ramp and people wonder, oh my God, what is she going to do? You know, let people see her live and in living color before she ever gets in that ring. But that's how I think that should be handled.
I think that's exactly how it should be as well. It's I think the other great thing that's happening here with the NXT Women's Championship is Becky is facing the likes of Tegan Nox, and randomly Xia Li came and challenged her. So random. Right. But when you think about what's actually happening, it's obviously a thing where some of these ladies who we don't see enough or who don't seem to get opportunities and all the rest of it. I think someone said it. I can't remember who was that said it. I heard it somewhere in the last 24 hours that, you know, with the likes of Xia Li and Tegan Nox, it's like the NXT Women's Championship is being used as like a WWE mid-card championship on the main roster. Yeah. So you're getting, you know, your Xia Li's and all of those who are then getting opportunities. And, you know, what's her name? The Australian who was NXT champion before. Indy Hartwell, you know what I mean? Obviously, she's now actually on the main roster, but she came back to NXT, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. You're seeing those types of things happening. So it would kind of mess things up if Jade was to insert herself now and kind of then, you know, Becky doesn't necessarily have a long run with it, doesn't put over other ladies and all that kind of stuff. So I think for now, we kind of keep Jade back. Again, as you said, every now and again, every 2 or 3 weeks, maybe we see her doing something, or she turns up at a show and she's in the crowd at Crown Jewel, or, you know what I mean, something like that. But then for me, it's either Survivor Series, if not Survivor Series, definitely the Royal Rumble, where she makes at least an in-ring debut. Because go on.
Go on, no, sorry, go on. I
was gonna say with both of those, both Survivor Series and Royal Rumble, it gives her a chance to face up to more than one person. So let's us see what she can do against more than one person. Royal Rumble will probably be the easiest one. You know, get her to eliminate the likes of a Rodriguez and Nia Jax and, you know, people like that. But then she has to then be going for something big. And if it's not Becky Lynch, it has to be some kind of matchup against, whether it be a champion or say Charlotte Flair, she's not champion by then. Something like that has to happen.
Yeah, she's gonna demand a WrestleMania match, even if it's away from the title at this point. So that's almost, it's almost like a first, maybe not a first completely, but it's something very rare that they do in the women's division. You know, give away matches at WrestleMania without a title involved.
Right.
So
Right.
they're gonna have to build something if they, especially they debut her in Royal Rumble, they've got enough time to. The last thing I was just gonna say on Jade Cargill, right? She came on screen on Fastlane, like we've all said. The first person she meets, Triple H. Being on screen with Triple H is not a small feat and should not be underestimated. Like they could have just done walking. She walks into nowhere, and cut whatever. Nia Jax came back. She just went straight, and obviously Nia Jax we've seen before, and that like. We will see how many other people, you know, I think they've just named Pillman Jr. that's down in NXT, Lexis King. We'll see if he debuts on screen with HBK. You see what I mean? Like, more than likely not.
Right.
Like, they are making sure that they are making her feel as important as anything. And again, this is Triple H's influence now. I think I read something today that's saying that most people in TKO, or people believe now that TKO have given Triple H the entire reins on creative, which goes back to your point in regards to seeing Xia Li and Tegan Nox and everyone get a chance. But then it's now this, they've done this with Cody and they've done this with Jade. They're picking someone up and putting them straight into WWE as is. Your name is your name. She appeared on WWE TV in half the gear that she wore in her last match for AEW. Why she met her COO in a bikini, I don't know, but I don't care. Like,
right. Because most guys would have been in a shirt and tie.
Exactly.
She could have worn that, you know, a dress or anything. It literally looked as if she walked out of AEW Rampage. I don't know where she's been for 2-3 weeks, but she came straight from there to,
you know, the scenic route,
literally to Fastlane. So it's very important the way they're kind of packaging her already, and you know, it's you can kind of compare it to what they did with Gable Steveson, although seemingly it didn't really look like that's worked out, but it's all kind of that same similar presentation, and this guy's gonna be a big deal. Obviously we hope the results for Jade are much better.
And you know, every time we've spoken about Jade and the way she's been presented, from the way they announced that she was signed and all the rest of it, I always think about the whole Gable Steveson thing as well, because it's a very similar way that they're trying to approach it. As you said, Mick, like, it's obviously not necessarily worked out exactly how they wanted to when it comes to Gable Steveson, but the approach was exactly the same. This is a superstar in his own right, who has done his own thing. He was the artist free agent. We're telling you that we've signed him. We're telling you that we're training him. We're telling you we're going to do big things for him. You know what I mean? And all the rest of it. Whereas that has never happened. Or the last time that happened was Kurt Angle, I believe, or something close to that. And even then, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. We just knew that he was signed because he was an Olympic world champion.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the only reason why we knew it wasn't packaged the same way. But obviously then with Jade, she's got experience, even though it's only 2 years more, but she's come from another wrestling company. Steveson hadn't come from that. You can't, there's nothing that we can look back with what Steveson has done, be like, oh, he's going to be like this in the ring. With Jade, it's a very different thing. So it's very, very interesting just how much, I was going to say pressure, but just how much they're giving this woman an expectation that they're giving us in terms of what they're going to do for her. It's very, very interesting. I hope they don't overdo it in terms of us seeing her every single week, but she doesn't do anything. I don't want to see her coming out of cars every week.
Right.
or sitting in the crowd every week, you know what I mean, or having a chat with Triple H in his office or whatever else for however many weeks we have until she does makes her debut. But every now and again, remind us that she's here. Or like Gerard said, a little vignette maybe. I mean, I'm intrigued actually to see a vignette and how they put that together, what that would possibly look like.
I feel something like, you know, maybe we don't need to see her again at this point until Survivor Series, and they can do something similar, like, you know, free agent Jade Cargill just showed up or whatever. And then if you guys remember back to earlier this year, how they basically said to us how they showed Cody's rehabilitation and that, you know, Cody wasn't on screen, but they showed the vignettes, and then Cody said in one of the vignettes he's going to be at the Royal Rumble.
Right.
It's going to be the first place since the injury that we were going to see him. Maybe something similar can work for Jade, like, you know, just a couple of vignettes building her up, and then she kind of states she's going to make her debut at the Royal Rumble.
Mentioning Cody Rhodes, do we think in any way that Cody Rhodes is going to mention Jade in his announcement?
I hope not.
You know, a lot of the rumor is there's a belief that he will, you know, talk about the Dusty Classic, which makes sense for him to do.
Makes a lot of sense.
You know, I think they're going to be very, very careful with who's acknowledging Jade. If my memory serves me correctly, they've not once talked about Jade Cargill at NXT, and I think that that's intentional. The fact that it happens on SmackDown and Raw tells us where they expect her to be. So I don't think Cody will mention it at all, at least not tonight. I think at somewhere down the road, there will be obvious mention of the relationship between Cody and Jade from Cody, but I don't think that happens tonight.
Fair enough. Speaking of NXT, we still have this whole thing with we weren't here last week, so we weren't able to talk about it. But then we're still not able to talk about it because he's not champion anymore.
Well, we probably should talk about it.
Let's talk about it, please. So Trick Williams won the NXT African American Championship in true form, but then within a week lost it back to Dominic Mysterio. Obviously, as well, we also had Carmelo Hayes lose his NXT Championship. I'm sure we're not as upset about that as we are with the whole Trick thing, only having the championship for a week. Gerard, how did you feel? And can you make any sense of the whole thing of him having that championship for just a week?
I can. And really it was more like 3 or 4 days, but who's counting? I am. Here's where I make sense of it. I think Trick Williams winning the NXT title or North American title was a great move. I think it was a great move. I think it was one of those unexpected moments. And again, talk about somebody who really jumped in and made a moment happen that wasn't supposed to happen. True. He did. I liken it to when the former Daniel Bryan won the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. And then later that night, literally in a few minutes, was cashed in on by Randy Orton, thanks to Triple H. The thing is, nobody remembers that. They all remember his run to WrestleMania 30, and they count that as his first world title, even though he's held 5 world titles in WWE. So I think what it says for Trick Williams is we know Trick is a star. This is kind of a taste of who Trick can be. Now we're about to watch the chase to get back to that championship, which I think is going to be something special. Most people are going to forget these 3 days of him being champion and losing the title. They're going to remember this chase and this run back, which, you know, could happen at almost any time. But that to me is what's going to make sense with this. I don't think this was an Indian giver kind of thing. Well, here, bring it back. You know, I don't think it was that at all. I think it's just more of, okay, we have multiple stories that are happening here. One of the stories being the Judgment Day story. I think the other story is the building of the superstar that is Trick Williams. And part of it is, you know, and you could make the argument, could this have been the moment where Trick really needed Mello in his corner? You know, did he have to go ahead and say, I'm going to be my own man right now? Because nobody is their own man against the Judgment Day and wins. Nobody. So this has a chance to be that. This also has an interesting chance to kind of put Trick and Melo back on level playing ground. You know, for a hot minute, we had, you know, for like an hour, we had Trick and Melo with both championships. Then for 3 days, we had Trick with a championship and Melo with no title. Now they're both without a title, you know. So where does this story go now? So I think that for the larger story, it's something that makes sense for Trick, though it's something we didn't want to see because we wanted to really enjoy this Trick Williams reign, which I think we'll get to do at a later date.
Max, how are you seeing now this dynamic with Trick and Melo? As Gerard rightly pointed out, you know, at one point both of them had a championship. Then you had only Trick with a championship, and then he was feeling away. And then you know you had that whole conversation with him, Dragunov, and Carmelo Hayes. Then now you've got both men without a championship. Does this bring them together? Are we going to get Melo doing that? I told you so, and Trick being a little bit, you know, well, I don't care, and being a bit stubborn. What is this dynamic going to look like now?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to tell. Like, what I would like is that, you know, they both re-link up, turn heel again, and just go on a rampage and go win the titles back to both of them. That's what I would like. But it may be more of, you know, Carmelo Hayes playing the "I told you so" card. I told you it was a different kettle of fish to be defending the titles rather than winning it. And obviously on the night as well, when Carmelo Hayes offered his services to be in Trick's corner, Trick rejected him. Trick said no. Going up against the Judgment Day, when by the time Finn Balor and Damien Priest came out, I said, "Oh, it's a wrap. It's a wrap." I think more of the decision was more so to actually work in Judgment Day's favor and establish Rhea as this leader that she's become. Remember when Judgment Day started, it was pretty much, we don't need Edge, everyone's equal, blah blah blah. Rhea's went away because she got beaten up by Nia Jax. She's come back and things are a bit of disarray. Dominic has no title and she's kind of come through. She's cleaned up. She's told Dom, if you don't go get that title back, you're not coming home. They've helped him win that back. Now she's on a mission to kind of get the tag team titles back on them, as well as beat up Shayna Baszler on the main roster. So I think this was more of a move to establish Rhea as the leader here. Unfortunately, Trick Williams was collateral damage in all of this. But I think that it's probably still going to play out. The crowd are very much behind Trick right now. Carmelo, although people still love him, we can't lie, there's been a dip since the kind of face turn as champion. So just in terms of support and noise made for him sort of thing, obviously between the ropes, he's still king. So it's just one of those things where you go with the punches, you still maybe make Trick the guy that's trying to, you know, maybe get his championship back and he's rejecting help and trying to be the honorable guy. And, you know, maybe we see a bit of a tables turning where Melo's trying to get involved and help him sort of thing, and Trick's pushing him away. We'll see. But it looks like they're going the long way with this. I see Trick versus Melo at, you know, their stand and deliver, their WrestleMania weekend show.
Absolutely.
Interesting. I'm kind of almost seeing it happening quite early on. Halloween Havoc is what? Is it 2 nights of Halloween Havoc?
There is 2 nights. Yeah, there are 2 nights.
It's too soon. I think they're gonna cook this all the way.
Yeah. This is the slow cooked Sunday dinner, maybe even the slow cooked Thanksgiving meal. Like, this is the turkey that bastes for a while. We're not hopping on this yet.
True. And I think it's going to add to the whole dynamic of the friendship. It adds to the storyline, all the rest of it. There are so many ways that this can go with what's happened over the last couple of weeks, where it can continue to cook, whether it be someone carries on stubborn, someone else wants to still be friends, and the other one kind of doesn't really want that, or they're both trying to work something out and it just doesn't work for whatever reason. And then we get the actual split, and they actually have a match eventually. So it can easily take a long time, and there's so much that both men can do in between that as well. This whole thing with Carmelo and John Cena against Bron Breakker, is there a point?
Yeah, there's a point. The point is beat TK. That's the point. That is the point.
I mean,
gracious.
it goes to show, obviously, you know, in terms of John Cena being in the corner of Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes can put that on his resume just in the exact same way LA Knight did at Fastlane. You know,
Absolutely.
everyone's saying it's the biggest match of his career because he's with John Cena, not because he's fighting whoever, not because it's Fastlane, because he's with John Cena. So for John Cena to call Melo and be like, "I'll be in your corner," John Cena called Melo.
I hated that segment. Like
So did I.
Oh, I'm in the parking lot, and the guy's asking him, and he's just like, "Oh, I just got off the phone with John Cena." What? Like how? Like, let's be completely honest. Like, how did you just come off the phone with John Cena? And with the in the corner thing, it's just like
it's like this whole thing that we've said about or that he said very often about what NXT is like being the whole high school kind of setting and whatever else.
Yeah.
It's almost like the senior has asked one of the NFL legends or the college football legends to come and help him out. And that's what it feels like. Like, you know, Carmelo's this guy, you know, yeah, the legend is coming back to see me and he's gonna help me. Like,
it's the way he done it. The way he done it as well. It was like I got off the phone with John Cena. I was like showing off, like I was like, but like you said, you know, at the top of the show, where it's going to be very odd, like how we shoehorn some of these guys, you know, into the program. I mean, this wasn't done particularly well, in my opinion. It may be great, like when it happens on the night tonight, it may actually be great, but it wasn't shoehorned in a way that I bought into John Cena being there or something like that.
Right.
Like, even if they done something like, I don't know, John Cena's coming down to check out the women's breakout tournament, and you know, at the end of it, he might kind of gives his blessing and his encouragement to one of the ladies or something like that. Like, I just felt like that would have probably been a bit more organic, rather than John Cena is just coming to be a whole John Cena is coming to be in your corner.
Not part of him, the whole John Cena.
Oh, John Cena.
I said, nah, what is this, man?
Oh man, it is a little bit tough. It is a little bit random. Even just Carmelo facing Bron Breakker feels random. Like, obviously they've got their history and all that kind of stuff, but you know, they were both doing very separate things. And for him to kind of call on, or you know, John Cena to be in his corner to face Bron Breakker, who he's beaten twice. You know what I mean? Like, and had no dealings with for the last 6 months. Like, very random. If it was Finn Balor, Damian Priest, would have made sense. It would have made sense, but yeah, it just feels a bit weird. And then obviously, Paul Heyman is in the corner of Bron Breakker.
We'll see. Beat TK in it.
It's business. It's business. At the end of the day, it's business. Speaking of business, but not the Hurt Business, but some of them. Bobby Lashley and of course the Street Profits did their thing at Fastlane. Came out looking $1 million. Literally looked phenomenal. But of course, the match didn't go the way that they wanted to. Gerard, what are you expecting now? Because the week before, you had Bobby Lashley almost threaten, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins with taking away their suits and all their nice stuff and all the rest of it if they can't prove themselves. And they obviously didn't do that by losing to the LWO with the returning Carlito. Random, but I loved it. What do you think now happens with this little trio? And what's Bobby Lashley's take on this whole thing?
I think it's going to be interesting. Bobby Lashley doesn't like to lose. And so I think the idea that he lost, excuse me. Sorry, I thought I muted that. Didn't. The idea that Lashley lost, his team lost, is not going to sit well with him at all. Considering that, you know, the night before, he was just like, you guys need to prove yourselves or else, you know, and they went on and proved themselves. And, you know, they looked pretty impressive. So they're obviously going to have to go back to the drawing board. And part of me, here's what I think is going to happen, because I noticed during the entrance, I said, okay, if we're really going to fully make the turn for the Street Profits, their entrance has to change. Them still coming out to the same music, still doing the same things, still motioning for the red cups. Like, I don't believe that you're a tough guy like that. So I think Bobby Lashley's going to have to put them through the paces to say, no. We're not going to lose another match. And here's what's going to happen. We're changing your music. We're changing your gear. You're not, no cheering to the fans. None of that. None of that. If they cheer you, it's going to be because you beat people up, but not because you came out singing and dancing. So I think those things are going to have to change, and he's going to put them through the paces, as he should. Because it's not, okay, yeah, you attack the LWO one night, and then when it really counts, you lose.
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
So that's what I think is going to happen. I think Lashley's about to put them through the paces.
Max, what are your thoughts on this whole trio? Where do Montez and Angelo go from here?
Bro, these men are losers. Like, I don't know. It was hard to watch them lose, and it's one of them ones where, especially when you can see they're trying to get over something new. You would assume if you're doing predictions or whatever, they're gonna win because they need it right now. They're trying to get over something new. Carlito came back, and as great as it was to see Carlito, I didn't think that's the kind of person that's gonna pull LWO out of this, and they still didn't win. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, like how from a viewer's point of view, without knowing what you know backstage, and if you're literally just watching this TV show week in, week out and not consuming any content, why should I care about these lot?
Right.
Like, he brought them together. They looked impressive. They looked like, all shiny in their suits, this, that, and the other. They eventually lost the match. They got blasted for losing. They were told to toughen up. They were told to take shortcuts. They then beat up LWO. We've got to the pay-per-view now, and they've lost again. They don't have a name. They don't have nothing I can cling on to why I should care about this at all. And I think me and Gerard were saying this about 2 weeks ago. I just feel like they're booking this upside down.
Yeah.
The analogy I used was the book is there, the cover, the front and the back is there, and the pages are all in different orders. And it still feels like that. So, yeah, I would like to see on SmackDown, some type of dressing down of these guys, and Bobby Lashley really sticking it to them and giving them an ultimatum of some sort. I think things probably need to come together quickly just to keep fans engaged.
Definitely.
Like, the story doesn't have to get to the crescendo immediately, but something needs to happen to keep the fans engaged. Otherwise, we're just going to think this is some loser group or something.
This is going to be harsh to say, but it's starting to feel like Retribution, or what was the other group that Marseille was in? Male Models.
Male Models,
yeah. Where for a week or two they're like the big story, and they're doing whatever they've got to do, and they're taking people out, or there's something that keeps you intrigued. But then after like about another 2 weeks, you're like, I don't care. I actually don't care. I don't want to see this. And that's a massive shame, because obviously we love the Street Profits as much as we do, and we've been waiting for them to kind of do something more. And whether that be they split and both do their own singles thing, or they just move to a next level. And of course, with this whole thing, when it first started with Bobby Lashley, we were like, oh, this is intriguing. We're getting some kind of similar thing to the Hurt Business, and you're going to see the black men in just dressed well and carry themselves nicely and blah blah blah. But then we get what we get, and it's just like I'm starting to feel embarrassed to see them, and that's bad. That's
secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah, that's bad. And I don't know whether it's a thing where WWE Creative have possibly kind of lost interest or focused themselves. So maybe at one point they were like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. But then other things started happening, and we're like, we'll leave that for now, and then we'll focus on this other. That's what it actually feels like to me. So for me, it's not a case of Montez and Angelo and Bobby doing anything wrong. It's just they've been given the wrong thing, or their storylines just kind of just been pushed to one side, kind of thing.
Maybe they're waiting for like other people or another story to wrap up, or I don't know. Like even with the tag team titles now, they've put it on Cody and Jay. Like it just seems like something needs to happen for them to kick into gear.
Right.
Like whether that's within them or within the whole universe, who knows?
It's crazy to think that we were having a conversation about a month and a half ago about the Street Profits, where they're about to go, and then we saw the New Day come back, and we're like, oh, what are they doing?
Right.
Now I'm like, I'm more interested in the New Day, way more interested in the New Day right now than the Street Profits, because the New Day have been putting on a good show with the Viking Raiders. It might not be, top of the card, and it might not be elevating them anywhere and all that kind of stuff.
They're killing it.
But it's been entertaining as hell, especially those matches. Whereas the Street Profits, you kind of like, okay. So it's crazy. It's crazy to think that dynamic has shifted, just in the space of like 4 weeks. But it's not the end of the world. It can be rectified, and I'm hoping it will be a thing where Bobby Lashley kind of humbles them in some way, and then that's when we get, the rise and the things that change, like the music and their attitude and all that kind of stuff, and we get some kind of wins, and then a name.
Right.
Please, Lord. Please, Lord. But for now, this is where we're at. On that note, this has been WrstlXtra. You're watching on the WrestleMania UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click that notification bell to know when this guy Mex will be putting out all these videos with AEW, WWE. He's going to be busy tonight, possibly tomorrow morning when it comes to this Tuesday thing. So be aware, be very ready for that. I'm going to be ready. You can also follow Mex at WrestleMania.uk on Instagram, WrestleMania UK on X. Follow this guy, Gerard Bonner, on all things Bonafide. Also catch him on his own show, The Faction Show. You can catch him on WWT Live, The Nightmare Factory, Battle Slam. What's the new one again?
IWE,
and everywhere else that he decides to turn up. There's a few other places. We'll probably talk about it next week. There's a few other places he'll be turning up soon as well.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been our show. Oh, you can follow me too if you want, if you feel like it, on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, BWA Dazzle on X. This has been our show. We are out of here. See you later.
Peace.